punt.
Best offensive player and their best defensive player.
Welcome to the Outback to Endzone podcast as we hit the conference final week. Football's getting serious now. Super Bowl's only weeks away. You got me, Adam, and here with Jamie. Jamie, how's the week been?
Mate, not too bad of a week. 4 teams left, hey, and obviously come to a wrap of the college football final. Mate, that was pretty nuts, that game. I'm keen to sort of get into that. But other than that, for me, same old, same old. We're both still off work, so we can't complain too much. But just getting ready for San Fran, hey?
Yeah, exactly. We're not working for our jobs to get paid, but we're putting in plenty of hours to try and secure some tickets to the Super Bowl, that's for sure. I know both of us are sending lots of DMs and trying to tidy up the page as much as we can to make sure we can hit the ground running and give the people the best content going forward.
That's it, mate. We're definitely not taking our foot off the gas, that's for sure. We've been ripping right into it, and we just want to make the absolute most of San Fran. But for you, mate, any news? Much been happening?
No, not much. Just cruising, really. Footy's about to start in a couple of weeks, so need to probably start doing some form of physical activity to get fit enough for that. But family, Outback to Endzone. That's my life at the moment.
Well, I haven't even gone to training yet for footy, so probably. I did get a message from the coach the other day asking if I'm still going around. I was like, yeah, I'll be there that first Saturday, mate. I can't really guarantee you much before then, but yeah, we'll see how we go. All right.
Well, we'll fire off into it. We'll take a little bit of a look at the Outback to Endzone trip. We've got an official partner to the Super Bowl now, Simon and Lifestyle Travel. They hooked us up a ripper, didn't they? They're absolutely unbelievable people and couldn't have done a better job. Last minute sort of, we're going to San Fran for the Super Bowl. They've hooked us up with great flight deals, great packages, kicking it in the hostel, so we're doing it properly. But yeah, thanks so much to Lifestyle Travel. As we were saying earlier there, every single hour of our day so far has pretty much gone into trying to secure these tickets. So if we don't end up with tickets to the Super Bowl, it won't be from a lack of trying. That's for sure.
So true, yeah. Honestly, could not speak higher of Simon and Lifestyle Travel down there at Ballarat. So, look, if there's any listeners out there that's looking at booking a trip just anywhere in general, I could not recommend you more than just popping down there and saying good day, because they'll look after you. It's nice and easy. I know in the past, Adam, they've sorted you out with a lost passport scenario. So if you like us when you travel and it's shit hits the fan, you want someone back home that's going to be in your corner and just sort you out.
For sure. It doesn't matter. You don't have to get to Ballarat as you're from Melbourne, and just call FaceTime to Simon and the team, and yeah, they can hook you up from anywhere. So anywhere in the world to anywhere in the world. So let's get into the week, eh?
Mate, let's rip into it. We've got a lot to talk about.
My thoughts, the Cleveland Browns offense the last few years has sucked. And Stefanski got hired as an offensive-minded coach. And I think there was a week there, it was like 13 weeks straight, we didn't score 20 points. So I know Atlanta had more weapons than Cleveland had, but for a bloke to get the whack of cash he got and for 5 years of security, I'm not sure it's the right move. Let me know what you think.
Sounds like Atlanta football there, mate, because you're dead right. Something that seriously blew my mind is finding out that Kevin Stefanski is actually an offensive coach. I just assumed with how long he's had that tenure with Cleveland and how good that defense has been, I was like, surely that's come from the head coach. The head coach is driving that. But with how shithouse the Browns offense was, and I can't even think, when would you say was Cleveland's best offense under Stefanski?
Early days when he come on board and we had like Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr., Nick Chubb flying. The run game, we played the zone read, the run game was good. But you say those names and they were all very talented too. So he had a squad and we won a playoff game. We had one good year. So you could nearly say he didn't get the most out of him. Then he shipped off Baker for a bag of chips and, well, hasn't that blown up in the last few days? But I just am not sure his offensive stuff is up to the standard of the NFL at the moment. I think he's been left behind a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I would genuinely not be surprised if he doesn't see out this contract with Atlanta. So Look, you wish everyone all the best, and you hope for, especially for those Falcons fan who haven't really seen much success since Matty Ryan and that massive Super Bowl. How long ago was that? Was that we approaching 10 years on that? Be
Pretty close,
2016.
yeah.
As you sort of touched on, mate, the old Baker Stefanski shade that's been popping off. This one really caught my eye. Baker Mayfield absolutely unloaded on his former coach, Kevin Stefanski, on Twitter. Turned into a proper little dust up. So basically what's happened, some old mate on Twitter's got on there and had a crack and said that he describes Stefanski's quarterback error in Cleveland as a bit of a dumpster fire, which was a bit of a shot at Baker. He jumped in straight away with a reply, and I quote him, "Failed is quite of a reach, pal. Still waiting on a text or a call from him after I got shipped off like a piece of garbage. Can't wait to see you twice a year, coach." I was like, oh, it is popping off. I can't wait. I can't wait for next year to see that first Baker Mayfield versus Atlanta matchup. There's going to be so much heat on that one. So he wasn't subtle at all, basically saying that Stefanski never reached out to him after he was traded, and clearly he still feels pretty filthy about how it all ended in Cleveland.
I can't
Yeah.
even believe that's even true. Like, there's been so many reports about Kevin Stefanski and did he want Deshaun Watson, didn't he? I think that goes to show that, well, he certainly didn't want Baker Mayfield. And a lot of the Cleveland fans, speaking from Cleveland fans and having a little bit of an idea of the what's going on in Cleveland, we loved Baker, and Baker was our guy. He fought through injuries. He wore his heart on his sleeve. He was a real sort of blue-collar hard worker, and you can see earlier this year when he was fully fit with Tampa Bay, the sort of drive and fight he has. So, yeah, I don't think Kevin Stefanski is going to get too many friends from Cleveland after, well, his last few years of coaching, and then Baker shooting his shot as well. I think we're all heap on the Kevin Stefanski train.
Yeah, I'm just like overall confused about it, because do you remember when Baker was carrying that shoulder injury and the Browns like they drew up for him to basically throw? It was some ridiculous amount of times on that crook shoulder, and that was when you had Nick Chubb in his prime as well. So I've never really understand Stefanski's connections with quarterbacks, especially like even going through this year. Just him and Shador never really seemed like they're on the same page. Like, I don't know if you agree with this, but I would have said that Shador looked like your most promising quarterback throughout the whole year. And you just weird plays, like you'd get down to the goal line and you're wildcatting with Quinshon when Shador was on a heater. Just didn't make sense. Like, you could just tell that they weren't on the same page there. So that really makes me question, like, does that come from Stefanski? What's his relationships like with the quarterbacks in the main room?
I think the Browns sort of side of things, and this year with Shador, I think that got overplayed a little bit. The wildcat goal line stuff, that was at times one of our best offensive plays, especially in the red zone. So I sort of disagree. The way they executed it, Quinshon Judkins I think it was against the Titans. Quinshon Judkins just needs to hand the ball off and it's a walk-in touchdown. So I sort of disagree a little bit there. And even Shador, like, I didn't mind the fact that they eased him into the season, gave him the last few games, but yeah, he was clearly better than Dylan Gabriel, and the fact that they drafted Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round and Shador in the 5th just blows my mind. But yeah, I think the fact that he wasn't, the Shador stuff definitely got overblown, I believe.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Did you see the great man, the Hoff, Big Joe
Our
Thomas,
man.
jumped in there? He fired back at Baker as well. He said, "I could be wrong, but I've heard that communication is communication is a two-way street, and there's no laws against you sending Stefanski a text or calling him after he got traded," which honestly is a fair point. It is a fair point. I can see both sides here. If you're the head coach and your starting quarterback gets moved on, a simple text probably goes a long way. It's basic professionalism, I would have thought. But at the same time, if Baker felt that strongly about it, he could have picked up the phone and given him a buzz himself. So it's not like he would have changed numbers or anything. Yeah, it just really shows that there's a lot of unresolved tension in that whole Browns era. And there's a lot going on behind the scenes with injuries, the front office decisions, quarterback changes, all of it. And clearly some feelings just have never really cooled off.
Yeah, now they get to face each other twice a year in the other side of the country, so we can just sit with our popcorn and watch.
Mate, I'm so excited. So excited.
We'll jump into the next topic, and we got the Bo Nix injury and the Buffalo Bills emotions. Obviously, Bo Nix breaking his ankle on the second to last play. Absolutely heart-wrenching stuff for Denver. Can Jarrett Stidham come in and be the Nick Foles of the Eagles a few years back? I'm not so sure, but I loved to see it, but also my heart broke for the whole of Buffalo was just the emotion on Deion Dawkins, on Josh Allen. This felt, for me, I tipped him as to win the Super Bowl. This felt like the perfect opportunity for Josh Allen to get over the hump and for the Buffalo Bills to finally break that drought. Mahomes not in the playoffs, Lamar Jackson not in the playoffs, the AFC looking a little bit weaker and looking very gettable, and to get done on the line against, well, we won't even get into that was it a catch, wasn't a catch. That's we'll be here for a whole podcast talking about that, but it just felt like another heartbreaker for Buffalo, and you really start to wonder, will they ever win one? Because if they couldn't do it this year, they're running out of chances.
Yeah, and it's not going to get any easier than what it was this year. They're going to need a few big changes. I've been saying it for a while, ever since Stefan Diggs has not been a part of that Buffalo team. Like, they just don't have the weapons. Like, you're just asking too many guys that don't have the talent to do the job. Like, can you imagine if you just gave Josh Allen, you just went out, you paid an absolute bag to just get an A-grade wide receiver in that room just to help him out, even if it just takes the pressure off some of those sort of tier 2 guys like your Shakirs. I feel like it would just open up that whole offense. Their defense has always been solid. So, look, are we going to see some changes? Obviously, we'll get into it in a little bit about their head coach firing, but I think they've got the squad. They've got Josh Allen in their prime. They've just got to go and just get some guys. They've just got to give him some options, give him some talent around him, because these windows, these sort of Super Bowl windows, they don't last forever. And if they don't sort of have a crack in the next 3-4 years, there could be no guarantees that Buffalo will ever sort of capitalize on the window they've got now. So we'll see.
The hard bit is with the Buffalo Bills situation, their defense was pretty average this year, so they need to strengthen that up. You could run all day against them, and they have got James Cook, and they are probably going towards running the football more. But as you said, one of these, they just need one weapon, and to pair with Khalil Shakir, Kellen Coleman obviously wasn't that guy when they drafted him at the start of the second round, but they need just one guy to just go, I need to make a play. Even the fact that it was Brandon Cooks, who's been to about 8 different teams in the last 6 months, goes to show in the biggest moment of your season, you're throwing to Brandon Cooks. That just goes to show that you need a weapon there. They've thrown plenty of darts at the board hoping to get one, but it just didn't happen this year.
Yeah, that's my issue with it is though that like they're throwing darts, but they're not throwing darts at great guys. Like I'm no GM, but if I was in the Bills situation, I would have thrown everything at getting a Jalen Waddle before the end of the trade deadline this year. Even if it costs you a first round pick, even more, it gives you a shot at winning a championship. And Bills, they're not going to be picking in the first 10 picks. Like, with the amount of picks that burn on your Keon Coleman's that haven't worked out, just go trade and get a guy like Waddle, anyone else, just someone that's got potential in being that number one guy. I think it would be the difference for them. But anyway, well, all the best for the Bills fans. That is one fan base that I feel for. All right, so another piece of news that popped up this week, bit of a strange one, was the Joe Mixon injury. The lack of disclosure about what's going on. We've had a bit of mail, sort of reading deep into the social media on what the true story is, but essentially the Texans GM, he's come out and said that it's a non-football related injury to the foot. Gave a heap of reasons of what didn't happen. Like, he said he wasn't in a snowmobile accident. He didn't do it cliff climbing.
He didn't fall off a building.
Yep, he didn't fall off a building, but it is a unique and strange injury. The mail was sort of getting through Twitter was apparently he shot himself in the foot. So, don't know if that's true. Didn't hear it from me. Don't hold me accountable if I'm completely bullshitting, but I mean, it sort of makes sense, mate. There's a bit of a weird feel going around with this one.
Yeah, I'm not going to dive into it either too much, but yeah, something fishy's happened here because you don't go out and say three of the most random things that he didn't do, but then not say what it was. So I think probably it's the franchise protecting Joe Mixon and trying to keep him out of any legal troubles, which if it is, kudos to the Houston Texans franchise. But in the bigger picture, Joe Mixon was massively lost this year. CJ Stroud showed in that playoff game, in both playoff games, that he's not what he was like in the rookie year where he can just be relied on to win games. So he needs that running support, and that's a big story, bizarre story. Who knows what the truth really is? There's probably not that many people that do, but yeah, he was a massive loss for the Texans this year, that's for sure.
Yeah, you kind of feel for Texans going out and getting a guy like Joe Mixon, and then, like, we don't know if he'll ever play again.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, we'll see what unfolds. I tell you what, when the 30 for 30 doco comes out about this one, mate, I'll definitely be sitting down with me popcorn to watch that one. McDaniels, he's been hired as the offensive coordinator of the Chargers. He was drawing a fair bit of interest for some head coaching positions. I know the Browns was chasing after him. I think this is a great choice personally for Mike McDaniels. He led the Finns to back-to-back playoff appearances. He's known as that creative genius on the offense. And I just think this is a huge get for the Chargers. Their whole offense sort of stalled late. Their O-line's going to be so much healthier next year. And the only downside I see for this is we're just not going to get as many Mike McDaniels press conferences next year, because I'll tell you what, that was some of my favourite part of football this year, was sitting down and listen to him talk, because he's a different cat, and I love that.
Yeah, he's a bit of a weirdo. There's no doubt about that. But I have to say, it's probably good on him for his professional career, I think. Like, as we said, we'll touch on it with the Browns head coach search in a minute. But he did have serious interest to go to other franchises and be a head coach, but felt what was best for him right now was to go pair himself with Harbaugh and with Justin Herbert. Mate, I tell you what, I could think of worse teams and offenses to get involved with than the LA Chargers. They've got Hampton there. They get both their tackles back. Like, they made playoffs this year without having their best two tackles for pretty much the whole season. And that's the thing. They're going to get them back. Their run game. They've got a couple of nice young receivers with Lab McConkey, Trey Harris, a few others. So look out. And I think scheme-wise, genius-wise, Mike McDaniels is a good offensive mind. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, 100%. It just takes the pressure off. Like, you could just see he was stressed this year. I've kind of felt for that bloke. But going into an offensive coordinator position, all of a sudden, not all the eyes are on you, not all the answers people are coming to you. So, yeah, I think it's a great decision. And I say watch out for the Chargers next year, mate. They would not surprise me if they win it all.
Yeah, definitely. Going to our next part with the Browns head coach search, though, I'm glad McDaniels wasn't the man, because I do question, can he lead a room? Can he run a room? Can he be the man in front of men? And when people are putting their bodies and livelihoods on the line, is he a man to be able to control that? So as a Browns fan, I'm looking for an offensive-minded coach, but I was probably leaning towards someone not named Mike McDaniel, so I'm not that upset with it. I actually was having a discussion with the biggest Browns fan in London about this the other day on the page, and I love the idea of Jim Schwartz, but I feel like we have enough talent defensively that even if we get a lesser defensive coach, we might be able to still have a top 10 defense. Offensively is where we're god awful. So I would love an offensive mind. Gadinsky from the Jaguars is who they're talking about. He's 30, like, he's my age. Do I believe I'm ready to coach an NFL franchise? Like, I've coached local football, but it's a bit different than blokes who are making millions and millions of dollars. Can he stand up, command a room? Is he the genius that people say he is? I don't know. Start of the cycle, and I know they're defensive coaches, but it was Harbaugh and Tomlin trying to steal someone from in division. McDermott, if you could get him, which I just can't see happening, but he would be great. But yeah, none of the people that have got second interviews, to be honest, I'm like, wow, like, get them to be a head coach of the Cleveland Browns. But I guess you just got to trust the process, don't you?
That's it. Trust the process.
We'll get into the biggest moment of the week, and it was Fernando Mendoza's quarterback draw. That could go down as one of the best moments in college football history. I saw before he'd ran for like 270 yards or something for the year, and on the biggest play of the game, he goes back, they call QB draw, he weaves, gets, and then the big dive to get to the end zone. That is just a moment in college football history that will be played for years and years to come. And to cap off, perfect season for Indiana, 16-0, national championship, Heisman Trophy, number one pick soon to be. It was an incredible moment that really just put a cherry on top of the whole season for Indiana.
Mate, mark my words. I think Mendoza's going to win MVPs in the league. He's just, there's something about him. Like, I know, like, his only real criticism I've seen is Indiana just play heavy RPO. But that doesn't take away from his accuracy. His character, he's incredible character. Just the way he speaks about his team. He's like one of the boys, but he's also just such a good guy. Such a good guy. And I think that starting to get really spoken about now is just how tough he is. He took some massive hits in that game. Like, he got pummeled, but gets back up, next play, pissing blood out of his lip, doesn't matter. And I think that touchdown just sums it all up. Determined, wouldn't let anything get him down. He wheeled himself into the end zone there, and that ended up really being the difference and why Indiana had an undefeated season and won the national title. So, mate, I'm so impressed by that guy. I'm so excited. He's probably going to end up at the Raiders at this stage, and I think that he's the only person that Las Vegas can't corrupt.
My only worry with the Raiders is when they played the Browns, obviously saw them, watched that game, and the Browns had 10 sacks. If they don't fix that offensive line, I don't care who's behind center. If it's Fernando Meza, I don't care if it's God. If they don't fix that offensive line, they ain't going to be any good. So it's a massive offseason for the Raiders because, yes, Mendoza's going to fix a lot of problems. Geno Smith, he sucked last year. But as I said, when you're giving up as much pressure as their offense was giving up, I don't care who's behind center.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think whoever takes that Raiders head coaching position, if they just acknowledge they're not going to find 5 new O-linemen that's going to be able to make a huge difference. I can't see Vegas's O-line being incredible next year, but I think if they have that same mentality and same sort of offense that Mendoza's come from, getting it out quick, RPOs, I can see them being a hell of a lot better. I can't see them making playoffs or anything, but if they slowly, over the next sort of few years, invest in that O-line, find a few good guys, then realistically, that could be the ticket for Vegas being back in the conversation. So we'll see what happens.
Well, they can't be any worse because they were the worst team in the league.
Absolutely not.
So who embarrassed themselves this week?
Pretty obvious one for me. I think CJ Stroud embarrassed the socks off of himself. He threw 4 picks. I'll be honest, I think he sucks. Davis Mills should start for that team. Ever since his little bro, Caleb Williams, and talked down to him, nothing's really gone this bloke's way. And look, it's coming from a fair bit of division rivalry hate, but yeah, I actually think CJ Stroud might have come into the season as one of the most overrated players in the league. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one to sort of feel like. I don't know whether CJ Stroud's done. He's not. He's going to get another opportunity. They're not going to move off him that quick. It's just unbelievable to think his first season, how good, and there's your quarterback for the next 20 years to, what was it, 7 interceptions or something in the playoffs, and just looked bad. Houston are ready to go. Like, their defense is legitimate. They've got a really good head coach in D'Amico Ryans. But yeah, CJ at the moment hasn't looked great.
What do you reckon the fix is? Well, I haven't watched too much Texans football, but what's been going wrong from apart from just throwing the ball to the other team? Like, if we were to give him an excuse, what excuse would you give him?
Well, they gave him the excuse last year that it was the offensive line and that he was getting too much pressure. I'm not going to lie either. I wasn't tuning into Houston Texans daily every week, but you can't go turning the ball over that often, and especially in big games with an unbelievable defense. You just need to play tough, hard-nosed football where a punt's as good as anything. Just run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, check it down, punt. Like, your defense is going to do the job. You just cannot afford to give the ball to the opposition. And he showed in the last 2 games in the playoffs that when the pressure's on and the lights are on the brightest, then he's going to throw it to the opposition.
Yeah, yeah. Especially when you've got a defense like that. And look, I know they were missing Nico Collins in playoffs, which is huge difference. Like that kills you. That really kills you. But I mean, they had him for most of the season, and CJ wasn't exactly lighting it up. So yeah, I think there needs to be changes there. And blaming the O-line, I feel like is like, I guess they lost Tunzel, didn't they? Tunzel went to Washington, traded him. Yeah, I think that hurts, but. I mean, you can only use the O-line excuse for so long, and he's definitely not taken as many hits as what Andrew Luck was or what Joe Burrow was taking. So, yeah. Mate, who is legit? Who from this weekend just really you consolidated on and you thought, yeah, I can just see them taking the league, taking the Super Bowl?
I have been on. I've always thought the Seattle Seahawks all year were really good, but I didn't go all the way in until this week. Like, we both picked them and we sort of felt like we knew the way it was going to go, but geez, I didn't see them just beating the brakes off San Francisco. They stole the
murdered 'em,
heart.
eh?
Yeah, they stole the heart out of them. A division rival, like, it started Rashid Shaheed taking the first kickoff to the house, like, started like that. Their defense and Mike has them just rolling, like, they are legitimate. And my one question, and it's been the same question, and it's everyone's question, is Sam Darnold, but he hasn't needed to do much because their defense is rolling. The loss of Charbonnet is going to be massive, but they still have Kenneth Walker. They've still got some really good receivers on the outside. Seattle are going to be a really hard team to beat for me.
Mate, as I said last week, that defense, Seahawks of old, they're going to be so tough to beat. And how genius is the trade for Raheed Shaheed? Comes in, he hasn't been lighting up the reception numbers, but stuff like running back kickoff for a touchdown to start a game, that just starts you on fire. That's just instant momentum.
I've watched plenty of Browns games, and I don't think I've ever seen. I think we've scored a kickoff touchdown since Josh Cribbs about 20 years ago. So he's done it twice since he's been traded to the Seahawks, and he's an explosive machine.
He's a cat. He's a cat.
They're blokes that in big games, when you can get a moment like that, well, it's going to be hard to stop.
Devin Hester, like.
Definitely. So who would you say would be your under-the-radar player?
I'll try to give you something a little bit different here. I'm going to say Kobe Durant from the Rams. He's had 3 picks in the postseason. And it's not like they've been playing the worst QBs. I know they played Bryce Young, but Bryce Young didn't throw a ton of picks this year. He threw 11 picks. Caleb Williams had 7 picks through the regular season. So he's not playing CJ Stroud's. But I think he's going massively under the radar. 1 pick against the Panthers first week, 2 picks against the Bears this week. That is an almighty individual effort. Comes up against the Seahawks, and as much as we love the Seahawks and we love Sam Darnold, he doesn't mind slinging them out as well. He's thrown his fair share of interceptions through his career, and if Kobe Durant can get on the end of a few, maybe that's the difference for the Rams.
Yeah, well, he has seen ghosts before, Sam Darnold. He's been quoted saying that. But, yeah, it's blokes like that in playoff football, when it comes down to 1 possession, 2 possession, like 1 possession games, when you can turn the football over and make instant plays, like we were saying with Rashid Shaheed, it's massive in playoffs. And, yeah, 3 picks in 2 games, you can't get much bigger than that.
Yeah, mate, couldn't agree more. From the weekend, what would you say is your biggest love the coach moment?
Well, we both love Sig. We can't hide that. He is the absolute GOAT. But I loved in the post-game presser when he gets up there and he shouts out local distillery, Hoosier Beer, and then Hoosier Beer comes on and says, we will give Coach Signetti a lifetime supply of beer. He will drink that much over this. I've said, no, he probably won't, but he is the man. Good on the brewing company for getting behind him. Good on Sig for enjoying a couple of nice cold ales post the Natty title win. Hopefully he lets himself enjoy it. I know it's transfer portal time at college football, so he's probably back on job already. But yeah, I just found that one was a cracker. The local distillery fill on their cup for Coach Signetti.
The things I would do to sit down and have a beer with Coach Sig, I'd do anything.
But your Super Bowl ticket if we get one.
Oh, don't put me in that position. You can go. I'll go have a beer with Sig and we'll watch the game together. You go to the Super Bowl. I'd call that a win-win.
Yeah, right. So, what would you say was your funniest moment of the weekend?
Sort of going back to that Niners-Seahawks game, did you see the 49ers entrance to the game?
They love the boombox, don't they? They love it.
Clown of the week right there. They've gone in with this big intro with the boombox and then just get blown out straight away. I don't know why I find it so funny, but there's just something about putting on a big show before the game and just getting your socks knocked off afterwards. That cracked me up. I don't know if it was the funniest thing this week, but it gave me a good laugh. Just clown behaviour.
I think the motivational speaker didn't work real well when Rashid Shaheed takes the first kick off to the house, does it? So maybe put it back in the locker, boys.
Kind of remind me of the old Adelaide Power stance back in the day.
Yeah, wasn't that? That was hard to look at.
That's got to be the worst of all time. But yeah, anyway, who would you say if there was a villain this week? Who was a villain?
The villain, I'm going pretty recently, but Buffalo owner Terry Pagula, or however you say it, throwing Sean McDermott under the bus about the draft pick of Keon Coleman. Pretty much standing up, firing back at reporters saying it wasn't Brandon Bean, the GM's decision. It was fully the coach's decision. When there's a fair few clips going around the internet saying Brandon Bean was pretty happy to get Keon Coleman. It's easy to look back and say, he wasn't the right pick. But I don't like kicking a bloke as you've just sacked him and just kicking him while he was down. The owner's probably got to be a bit bigger than that.
100%. And I know we've been critical of the Bills and what they've done through wide receiver, but to hold him to one bad draft pick. If we did that to the Colts, and Ballard would have been fired years ago. And he's drafted well. That's probably the thing he's done the best is drafted. But every team screws up picks, and it's just never a guarantee. But yeah, after you've fired him and just throwing a bit of gasoline and a match on him after and watching him burn, that's a bit rough, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, I don't blame him for wanting to get Josh Allen a receiver because we spent 5 minutes talking about it earlier that you need to get him a weapon. So I think you got to be a bit more classier than that, Terry.
Yeah, come on, Terry. You're better than that, Terry.
Which fan base would you say are sleeping with the lights on?
Well, I'm going to go with the Rams. I think they still look rusty. We said that they needed to shake the rust off when they played after the Panthers last week. I wouldn't say they did that against the Bears. They could have easily lost that game, especially when Caleb threw that ball. Probably, I don't know about you, but that's probably one of the best balls I've ever seen anyone throw. That was electric, especially in the context of the game. Rams obviously put into overtime, get the win. They sneak through by the skin of their teeth again. Coming in against the Seahawks this week, I would be shitting myself. I'd be sleeping with the lights on and still pissing the bed, I reckon. I can't see them getting up against Seattle. Yeah,
it's going to be a hard one for them. I know at least down the stretch in that overtime, the link up between Puku and Devontae with Stafford, that's how I can see them getting it done. But that Seattle Seahawks defense is legit. So it's going to be hard to see them get the chocolates. But yeah, I can't see it happening.
Yeah, and there's questions around Stafford with a hand or a wrist injury as well, and that really worries me because if he's not throwing comfortably, then
yeah, it's going to be hard work for the Rams, that's for sure.
All right, we're going to move into our next segment here, which is dead set or dreaming. So, do you want to kick us off, Adam?
Yeah, well, we'll go into one of the head coaching openings, one of the head coach positions that are opened, and the Steelers. Obviously, not a massive Steelers man, being a Browns fan, but I think they are flat out delusional that they think their head coaching position is an attractive position for a coach. They don't have a quarterback. They have an okay defense, but their roster is aging.
Heavily.
I legitimately think they need to just head to the draft and rebuild, especially now Tomlin's gone. Tomlin was probably holding on to that I don't have a losing record sort of thing. It's time for them to go backwards for a couple of years, to go backwards to go forwards, because I don't see that position as, I'd love to coach the Steelers. They've got history, but how many other teams have history? You've got Josh Allen there, you've got Lamar Jackson there without head coaches, and Pittsburgh are trying to say, oh, yeah, we've got a good opening. Like, rubbish, I think.
Yeah, I think you're dead set there, mate. I can't disagree. I think Steelers are, now that Tomlin's moved on, they're just going to let go of that. They're going to go one way or the other. Like for how long I can remember, the Steelers, probably since sort of Big Ben. Big Ben's been around. Steelers have always just been that middle tier winning season, but sneaking into the playoffs or just outside, I think it's time that they just go one way or the other. They either go out and get real aggressive and try to sign superstar quarterback, bring in some options, I guess replace some of these older players, or they go the other way where they trade some of these guys that still have value. They offload some of these contracts and they start young again. I think it's probably the reason ultimately that Tomlin and Steelers had this breakup, because they're just stuck in the middle, very similar to the Colts. Like, we never suck, but we're never great as well. And I think it's the worst place to be as a fan. Like, I'd rather see my team being terrible, but knowing I've got a handful of picks coming in and knowing we're going to pick up some new, fresh talent, rather than being stuck in the middle, not really having much draft capital, not really doing much in free agency, and just knowing that you come into the year, you're not going to be terrible, you're going to win a few games, but you're not going to be a threat either.
A few points on that. I'll tell you what, it's not that great being terrible when you got to wake up at 5 a.m. to watch your team not score 20, but I can see your premise. The Steelers did go out this year to try and win a Super Bowl. They signed Rodgers, they got Jalen Ramsey, they got Jonnu Smith. So they did try that, and they still were irrelevant. Well, they weren't irrelevant. They made the playoffs. They're never going to win a playoff game.
They were never going to win it. They were never going to make a run.
Nah, so they've tried that, and they've tried it and tried it and tried it. There's not a superstar quarterback that's just sitting there saying, oh, yeah, come and pick me up.
Yeah.
So they've got to attack it. And in this year's draft, there isn't a quarterback. There's the first, Mendoza will get picked first, and then you've got to take a flyer on a few of these other guys in the middle to late rounds. So I think they've really got to go backwards. Steelers fans probably don't like me saying that and probably just hate and tell me how the Browns are shit and this and that, which good on them. But yeah, I think they've got to go backwards to go forwards.
Yeah, I think it's the way. I agree.
Who's your dead set or dreaming?
I'm going in on the Sean McDermott firing, and I think this was a bad decision. Reason being, before his tenure with Buffalo, the Bills were irrelevant for years. They had a massive playoff drought. They never had an identity. They never really had a superstar quarterback. Who was the last quarterback before Josh Allen?
Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod, yeah. Love Tyrod, but he's not a franchise guy. Whereas since McDermott's come in, consistent playoff team, Josh Allen's developed into an absolute superstar. Good defensive culture's been established. I know they didn't have the best year defensively, but I thought they finished quite strong. And Buffalo's been in the Super Bowl conversation every year. I just think coaches like that, they don't grow on trees, and I think moving on from him could be a massive mistake for Buffalo, because you just don't know what you get with your next head coach. And if you don't get it right, then you don't know.
Yeah, well, I'll disagree a little bit with you, because I like that McDermott. I said 10 minutes ago that I would pick him to coach the Browns, but sometimes I do feel like there's time for a sea change. And the reason a lot of the things you've just said have happened is because of the quarterback. The quarterback is him, and Josh Allen is him. I'd be really interested in seeing what Jim Brady, their offensive coordinator, because if he was going to go for another job and they need to keep him, I wouldn't be shocked if he becomes their next head coach. But yeah, I think it was time for a change in Buffalo. I understand a lot of the things you're saying, but just a new voice, a bit of new direction, a bit of new leadership, a bit of new excitement and build to get them over the top, because they've had all of those things yet consistently break down. So giving them some new, fresh and vibrant sort of feeling would be, would be the way I would sort of go about it.
Yeah, that's fair enough, mate. Telling he's dreaming.
We're going to deep dive into a bit of a GM sort of series. So first cab off the ranks, we've got the Miami Dolphins. So you're going to give us a little bit of your GM shoes and sort of see what you would do with the Dolphins.
All right, mate. I'm heading down to Miami. I'm putting my GM suit on. And this is what we're doing. This is how we're fixing the Dolphins. We've just hired Jeff Hafley. He's not a glamorous, flashy name, especially with some of the coaches that are going around the carousel, but it's probably what they need. A defensive-minded coach that's going to tighten up some of those coverages and inconsistent defense. I think he's a great hiring, and I think he's really going to help Miami, especially on that defensive side of the ball. Probably the next thing I'm doing is I'm getting Tyreek Hill's ass out of Miami. By doing this, we could potentially ruin the league, especially if we trade him to the Chiefs and he goes back to doing what he was doing best. But he's 31 years old. He's coming off a major injury, and I think he's just shithouse for culture. So I'm getting his ass out of Miami, and I don't know what would be getting in return. I'm sure some of the Dolphins fans would be asking for a second, maybe a third, but I'm just going to expect that we're getting a 5th round pick back. And then we've got to address the quarterback situation. So we aren't going to draft a quarterback, mainly because we're not picking at pick 1, and there's only one great quarterback in my opinion. So we're going to hit the free agency market, and we're going to take a go on Malik Willis. He's impressed the shit out of me. I think he could be a genuine top 12, maybe top 10 quarterback in the next few years. Not saying next season, but I think he's got the potential there. He obviously runs the ball incredibly well. He's athletic, but he's also looked comfortable in that Green Bay offense when we've seen glimpses of him. Very accurate. Looks like he runs and controls the offense well. So I'm extending a contract to him. Whatever gets the deal done, I'm bringing him in for a year deal. And if he doesn't prove it, we're going to hit the draft and make the most of that big QB draft that's coming out next year. In this year's draft, we're picking at pick 11. We've got to do something to improve the backfield. So we're going to take the first corner off the board, and we're a bit of a risk, but we're going to go for Jamod McCoy from Tennessee. He actually missed all of last season with an ACL, but he's back healthy now, literally back on the track. So they were saying he's easily the number 1 cornerback prospect in the whole draft. So we're going to draft him at pick 11. Hopefully that gives us a bit more of a promising defense going forward. But that's how I'm dressing the Miami Dolphins this year. And I think automatically moving on from Tyreek Hill, giving Jalen Waddle that number 1 title as receiver, and bringing in Malik Willis, who's going to be way more accurate than what Tua is and way more athletic. I think he's going to give that Miami offense, it's got some good key pieces there. It's going to give them a bit more life going forward. So that's what I'm doing with the Dolphins, mate.
Yeah, I like it. Hafley has that connection at Green Bay with Malik Willis as well. Put Willis and Achane on the same offense. That would be exciting. And with Waddle, you're super fast still, which was obviously what made Miami really successful in the McDaniels days. So yeah, I'm not sure he's a top 10 quarterback, but I think there's only a few positions. I don't think Malik Willis fills and fits a lot of teams, but I can really see Miami working for a guy like him where they throw out a line and they say, you run the ball with Achane, you run the ball with Waddle, and then you've got a deep threat with Waddle. Yeah, I don't mind it. And address defense, try and build that defensive identity up with Jeff Hafley. Yeah, maybe I'm not sacking you just yet as the GM anyway.
I might go when Willis goes if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, well, top 10's a big call for Malik Willis, a guy who hasn't started probably 10
Well,
games.
started with top 12. Let's not let's not quote me too hard on that. And I didn't say next season. I said potential in his career. But hey, I'm backing my guns. I think he could actually be really good. But we'll see. We'll find out.
We'll wait and see for sure. Well, we'll head over to this week's games and the conference championship. Just touching back a bit over the community's picks. It's been awesome to see so many people jumping on and voting. So if you haven't, get on and start doing it. The community's been on a bit of a heater. 8 and 10, only dropping the Bills game last week. And I couldn't believe actually how strongly the Bills were tipped. I think it was like 80-something% over Denver.
85, I think, yeah.
Yeah, they got it wrong, but keep voting because it doesn't matter if you're a rookie picking or you're an absolute genius. Like my wife's been picking every week and I think she's getting more right than me. So keep getting along with the community. I was 2 and 4 last week. You were 3 and 4, which means we're all tied up at 7 and 10 this postseason. So yeah, it's a big week on the track. First, we've got the Seahawks versus the Rams. Seahawks -2.5. What are you thinking?
Mate, from our conversation so far, give me the Seahawks. They're going to be too good. Too many questions around that Rams offense. I think they're just going to blow them out of the park. I think it might be an absolute shellacking.
Yeah, well, my first reaction was Seahawks huge, but I've probably called a little bit on that. I think the Rams defense will get after Darnold without Charbonnet too. A little bit more pressure. Give me the Seahawks 21-14, I'll go. What about the Pats versus the Broncos? Pats -4 in Denver.
Sorry, Mr. Stidham. I don't think you're a Nick Foles, unfortunately. I think there's too many questions around that. Pats' offense hasn't looked amazing going into playoffs. They've been solid. I mean, it's been more that defense, which I think is what's going to win them against this one. I think they're just going to obliterate that Broncos offense. As we were sort of talking about last week, I think there's a lot of questions around that Broncos offense, and that's before you introduce Stidham into the conversation. Pats defense is going to be all over him. Drake May, I don't know if he's going to throw for 305 touchdowns, but I think he's just going to get the job done for the Pats.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Pat's huge. Joe Stidham, fairness, is probably one of the better, maybe top 10 backup quarterbacks. But that Pats defense, the front line of that defense has been amazing this playoffs, and I can just see them bottling them right up, and it could be 24-10, and it's just a one-way street.
33-6, that's my call.
Yeah, I like it. It'll get turned off the tally pretty quick if that's the scoreline. Start watching the Australian Open, I think.
Well, while we're at tips, mate, who's taking out the Australian Open?
I don't know. I haven't watched any tennis at the moment.
NFL's been too good.
Yeah, Alcaraz looked pretty good the other night when he pummeled an Aussie on prime time, and it was on in the background. But no, I'm not one of those guys that likes to think I'm a tennis expert when the Australian Open comes down. I like to watch the tennis and like to go to the tennis, but I'm not an expert at that sport.
Couldn't agree, mate. That's why we don't have a tennis podcast. Rightio. Well, that wraps us up for this week. So, especially in our picks there, mate, we both agreed. So we're going to be tying up. I wonder if when we get to the Super Bowl, that's going to be the split for us, or we're just going to keep it steady all year.
We better do a split pick in the Super Bowl and have some sort of punishment for whoever wins and loses, I reckon.
Might have to flip a coin.
Yeah.
See what happens, especially if we're there.
Oh, yeah. Dress up in full kit, be a full kit wanker, and yes, yeah, I like it.
We'll get the face paint out for you, mate. Deck you out. Rightio. Well, we appreciate everyone, as always, jumping on, having listened to us just have a yak about NFL. Jump onto our social media, Instagram, YouTube, do all the good stuff, likes, shares, comments. That really, for a smaller page like us, that goes a very long way, especially when we're tracing our dream of getting to the Super Bowl. We paid for the accommodation, lifestyle travel. They've covered our trip to get over there. We still don't have our Super Bowl tickets though. So if you guys know anyone, feel free to reach out, shoot us a message. Any sort of little connection all means a a shitload to us.
The other thing too is if you are going to the Super Bowl and you will be in San Fran, a number of messages already. Hook up. We'd love to catch up for a beer.
100%. We'll be putting some stuff out in the socials about that for anyone that wants to catch up. But yep, as always, do the good stuff. Like, subscribe, share this around, send it to a mate. Helps us out massively. Go Colts.
See ya.